Mr. Ashok Soota, co-founder of Mindtree, is with us on the phone line to talk about all that's happening with the company as well. Mr. Soota, I appreciate you taking the time out and thank you so much for joining in. Some thoughts, sir, on what's happening in the past. There is no official comment from Mindtree with regards to the possibilities of a hostile takeover, but if I read Subroto Bagchi's tweet, it certainly seems to be at the doorstep. Is the buyback a plan by the board or the management to show that you are happy with the current things and you do not want a suitor who comes in and does a hostile takeover in the first place?
Sure. You know, I'd like to always just step back a little bit and say that my own personal empathy here is both with Siddhartha, because he's been a white knight for 9 years and an investor for 10, and he'd like to try and monetize his investment. I also have empathy for the founders, because in their place I would do the same thing of trying to resist a hostile takeover. Now, will they succeed? Because obviously you've got a very powerful force lined up at the other end. And it seems that they are poised, and I'm going by all that I read in the media, they are all poised to actually acquire Siddharth's shares and then very quickly launch a bid for offers from the public, etc., for enhancing the 26% once they reach there. Is the buyback going to be enough? It's not going to be enough, but I don't think that Subroto and the other founders would have made these statements without having alternate financial strategies. And one can only wish that they're able to, work those out in adequate good time and stall the effort of what they see as a hostile takeover.
Okay. So, Mr. Soota, how does this work? I take a leaf out of one of your answers, that the buyback is announced, but whether the buyback would be enough. And my question is the buyback one means for the current management to show that they are not wanting a hostile takeover? I mean, Subroto Bagchi's tweet seems to suggest that Mindtree is not an asset which is meant to be bought and sold. It is an asset independent of such activity, here to stay and create business and create wealth for long-term shareholders.
Sure. So, I think there are two angles to it. The first part is this enough? Clearly, the buyback is not enough. You guys have published the data, and it might make a difference of, say, 4% or whatever it is, because there's a limit to how much they can buy back. There has to be another financial strategy. And and that strategy needs to unfold. If it doesn't unfold, and if there is no appropriate backup which they've been able to work out or not able to work out by the time L&T gets going, because L&T will acquire, let's say, 22%. They've still got to get another 4% in the market before they launch the open offer. Obviously, the founders are also working on multiple strategies behind the scenes. And let's see what they're able to come up with.
Mr. Soota, this is Sajid here. One of the main issues which has been raised is with respect to the cultural differences between both the organization. Even if L&T is poised to go for a hostile takeover, the board and the senior management seems to believe that the culture, it does not fit culturally. Do you see that as a big issue in the entire deal, transaction, whatever you call it?
Sure. I don't see it as an issue in context of the deal going ahead. I mean, if L&T has made up its mind, they will buy, and they've got all the power and force, they'll buy. Is culture a real issue? Of course it's a real issue. So many acquisitions fail because of, cultural incompatibility, differences in points of view, and so on. And just the culture of the organization. But that, I would imagine that if, let's say, L&T were to be able to succeed and go ahead, that becomes one of their challenges in recognizing what can be done to ensure success, in spite of the fact that there is obvious, very different differences in culture, and that exists in all organizations of a certain size. I think the big thing would be for L&T to then, if they did go ahead, to actually see what they can do to gain in terms of integrating the cultures and bring in some of the best practices at Mindtree.
If integration of the best practices or it was the aim, Mr. Soota, then why wouldn't L&T go for a merger with Mindtree rather than go for an hostile takeover?
Yeah, well, it's not that this is a choice they have. The founders then have to agree to a merger. So this is their only way to really get control. And then hopefully get the founders aligned with this and say, hey, maybe find the right roles for them, because they themselves have done a good job. They've delivered good returns since the IPO. And maybe and that's where the wisdom of how they will do the integration, assuming they could even keep it well apart. So lots of things can happen from here.
From a founder's perspective, Mr. Soota, the founders and promoters today have nearly 13% in the company. If you were to look back and see, by allowing Siddhartha to go up to 20%, was it a big mistake?
No, it's not a mistake at all. It was a great thing for them, because that time they needed a white knight. You see, the problem they're facing now, they could have faced 9 years ago when I was exiting and Walden. Remember, Walden also exited. So between the two of us, we were the two largest shareholders. And it's not that we also didn't have offers from other companies at that time. We were not keen on destabilizing the leadership. Siddhartha emerged as a white knight. So that arrangement has continued wonderfully well for 9 years, and it's actually worked out for the greater good of all concerned. Siddhartha's got a good return. Founders have continued to run the company. It's a new development. How well they will be able to come out of this development, I think, really remains to be seen.
See the relationship between Siddhartha and the board, current board, and the promoters who are now on the board.
That's a wonderful relationship. Let me tell you, Siddhartha came in for the company because of me, because he had sought me out even while I was working at Wipro, and said, look, if you ever choose to start, I'll be available to you as an investor. And then, after we began the company, I'd say particularly with Subrata, we built a very close relationship. And also equally, I'd say, at later stages with KK and Rasto, who's currently the CEO. So there's nothing negative in their relationships. He's, I think, proceeding on this on the basis of an economic approach, which is also fair enough as an investor. And they're doing what they can do to retain control.
Mr. Soota, let's assume that if the reports are to be believed and if there is a hostile takeover or a bid put up shortly, and let's assume it's successful, one would presume that the existing management, Subrata Bagchi and the rest of the people, might not find it in their best interest to continue with the company as well, right?
Not necessarily.
What happens
to start with, I must tell you, the Subrata is not a part of active management. He's a director on the board. He actually stepped down as the chairman. To take up the government role, which he said he's moving out of now.
Yeah, Rosto Ravanan. But Rosto Ravanan as well, Mr. Soota?
Yeah, so Rosto and KK are the two people involved at the moment. And actually, there's also another founder, Partha, who's actually been the CEO of the company for some time. And so they're pretty much involved. There's also another founder based in the US called Kamran Ozair.
Sure.
And so these people are there. I think, like in any acquisition, if it went ahead, I think it would really be for L&T to work with and win over the existing founders.
You reckon it's easy because the existing founders or the people that we just spoke about are showing signs of resisting this in the first place?
So if they're not able to, then, well, I think then you have to acknowledge that and then perhaps work out suitable arrangements to bring about a transition. But actually, I believe that none of this is impossible. I believe these are things which get worked out once you see the situation on the ground based on who owns what percentage of the company.
Okay, just one idea from you, Mr. Soota. And I heard you in one of your comments, the first answer or the second answer, say that either option, whichever way it works out, would be fine for shareholders. Can you elaborate that on a bit? Should this succeed or not succeed? How?
Sure. So either way, if you see a group of shareholders bidding to, let's say, either get control or retain control, that is going to be a process where you're going to give an asset where two people are bidding for, and the price of that asset will keep going up. So it's certainly going to be good in the short run for. And even and then handled well, it should be good in the long run for the shareholders also. But certainly the immediate thing will be a gain.
Mr. Soota, From a shareholder's point of view and someone who has been founder of this company, how do you, what kind of recommendation do you give to those shareholders? Because your company is widely held, 40% odd is held by foreign portfolio investors. There are big investors who hold some 10% odd. As a founder of this company, and what is the kind of advice that you want to give to the shareholders, whether they should participate and tender the share to L&T, or should they support the board?
See, Mindtree has delivered good results for their existing investors, and they have no reason to believe that they won't continue to do so. And to that extent, I would say that it will be a great thing if, the existing founders are able to this. There will be a tussle, assuming that L&T reaches the stage or getting 26%. Mindtree has worked out alternate strategies whereby they're able to garner adequate funds to be able to get another equivalent percent. Then I think the existing shareholders could be persuaded to say, look, let's support the existing team. But that really remains to be seen.
Do you see a white knight emerging for the current management and board to buy out the Siddhartha stake?
See, that's exactly what they need. And I can't tell you. That's speculation. I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, but I would certainly wish them the best if they're able to do that.
Mr. Soota, my final question on this conversation, and that is, if I read the Times of India report, it seems that this is a done deal, and L&T will proceed ahead and maybe stitch together something which will get them a deal going. How do you, as somebody who knows the intricacies of corporate India, let alone just Mindtree, what are the options existing with the current set of people at the helm of Mindtree to thwart that? Can you maybe speak something about that?
Actually, you yourself really gave the answer. They need another white knight. And I'm presuming that efforts are behind, because the share buyback will only accomplish a small percentage. So you do need another white knight. And let's see how that unfolds. But, I can't also comment. They may have worked out other financial strategies. And it would be great if they have.